So, Matt, have you ever cooked up a plan that just totally fell through, just did not work at all?
I have had that happen many times, but specifically, I would start with my wedding because that later ties into how I've dealt with plans going awry in the workplace.
Oh, okay.
So I'll set the stage. My wife and I, super planners. She's a wedding planner. We're driving out to our wedding in a Ford Expedition with a trunk filled with the greatest gift bags of all time. We were high-fiving ourselves and Instagramming pictures from the backseat of how great the gift bags that we were about to put together. Famous last Instagram. Never do that.
Okay.
Because we get out onto the LIE and I'm driving like 70 miles an hour and all of a sudden we smell something burning. Like, what is that? Is it the e-brake? No. All of a sudden I hear a ding, trunk open. All of the gift bags of our wedding fly out of the trunk of our truck.
Onto the Long Island Expressway.
Onto the Long Island Expressway.
Okay, now that's an Instagram moment.
Yeah, that's the picture we
Yeah.
should have taken. And so obviously we had the natural freak out. But after that, we were like, well, what are we going to do? What can you do? So we went to town where we were getting married and just threw something together. And it's like, okay, we just made the best and we pivoted after a major, major freak out on the side of the road. But fast forward a couple of years, and my wife and I actually started a food business that was catered dishes to go, which was kind of like to replace the catering industry, to disrupt them. And we started selling in grocery stores. And we had this whole plan. We're like, oh, we're going to be the next Shark Tank grocery store product. A funny thing happened. People started ordering a bunch of these kits, but then calling us up and saying, hey, can you come over? We're throwing this party. We want you to put together the kits and then serve them. And we're like, but no, you don't
We're
get
not
it.
caterers.
We're not caterers. Like, that's not the plan. The plan is you buy the kits, you open them, you have the party. That's why.
That's the plan.
That's the whole thing.
Just stick to the plan.
Right. So unfortunately, one person called, two person called, three person called. All of a sudden, we had all these parties that we ended up catering. And we're like, okay, I guess we're a catering company now. And so I think the moral of the story is
Yes.
You plan, God laughs.
I love that.
From Wondery, this is Safe for Work, Job Stress, Life Relief. I'm Matt Ritter.
And I'm Liz Dolan.
On today's show, we're going to be giving sage advice straight from the source at ZipRecruiter in our new segment, Zip Tips.
And Lee Weinstein will be joining us to talk about the importance of creating a deliberate life plan, even if things don't always go the way you want.
They never do. But before we dive into all that stuff, it's time for some advice.
Our show's all about helping you find happiness and satisfaction at work. So if you've got an issue you want to talk to us about, you can send us an email at safe@wondery.com.
Let's go to the phones.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, Margaret. It's Liz and Matt.
Hey, Liz and Matt.
Hi.
So we understand that you have a big reorganization coming up at your company. So that is going to force a career choice for you. So what's going on and what do you think your choices are?
Yes, indeed, there is a big reorganization underway at my company. I'm confident that I'll have a job at the end of it. My role is pretty essential. However, I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to want it. So when I heard about this reorg coming up, I got back in touch with a different company that had actually recruited me a few years ago.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and this is a big, one of the top 3 or 4 globally recognized, respected, consumer-facing tech companies. So
Okay, so far so
a
good.
great company.
Matt and I are both shaking our heads. Okay, good, Margaret. Yes, and?
So I'm now in the running for a position at that other company. If I do get an offer, here's where I'm kind of stuck. So the company would be great. The money would be good, more than I make now. And I liked everyone I met. I think it'd be an interesting place to work. And yeah, the prestige factor, huge. However, the position over there would only be using a subset of the skills that I've gained at my current job.
Uh-huh.
And I don't really know what my current job is going to morph into. Should I stay around? It could be interesting. I don't think the money will be as good.
Okay, let me recap quickly. Because I think I see where you're going. In the new position, you've talked about it could that it's a great company. You like the people. It seems to be more money, and it could be really interesting for you. But your concern is kind of narrowing yourself too much, working on just a subset of the things you already know. Is that subset a growing area, or do you think what we don't want to have happen here, Margaret, is for you to go into a smaller subset of responsibility and then have those responsibilities kind of age out, become obsolete? So what do you think about that?
I don't think they will ever become obsolete. They've been around forever, and it's something that only humans can do. So I'm not worried about that. I think the issue is that in general, that those skills generally do not command a very high salary. The reason they do is because of, this being a big company like we talked about.
I see where you're going. You're going to have some kind of choice to make. First, I'd say you think your job is essential and will be there after the reorg. That would be great. We wish that for you. But I personally would never count on that. Crazy things happen during reorganizations.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, just bear in mind, you either might not have a job or you might have a wildly different job than the one you currently have or the one you want.
Yeah, I agree. I always say one in the hand is worth two in the bush, especially if that bush might be on fire. So, what I'm hearing is, and I've had a lot of people talk to me about this recently, about, changing jobs and feeling like they're not getting to use all those skill sets. I had a family member that was the head of an entire unit and then went on maternity and came back and took a different job where she was only overseeing part of what she was before. But a funny thing happened is shortly thereafter, she realized that there were other skills that she was learning and using that she didn't know that she was going to need. So I think, for this new job, it's possible that there are other skills that you are going to pick up, and that job may also morph. So, I wouldn't be so sure that the job you're going to is necessarily limiting you in the way that you think it might be.
That you fear.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. In your original letter to us, you said that part of what was on your mind was your age, too, that you want to make sure you're positioned, well for the rest of your career or the next phase in your career. So how old are you?
So I just turned 47.
And why is age a factor in your mind for you? I don't want to just guess, because I could certainly guess, but why is that a factor here in this decision for you?
I think that particularly in the realm that I'm in, which is, digital internet, that ageism does exist. I haven't personally experienced it. It's just something that I'm hearing about on the horizon. That's all really. It's just kind of hearsay, I suppose.
No,
I don't think it's really
real.
a concern for me yet, but it's kind of the thing of like, okay, if I were to get an offer, take it, stay there for a few years, then suddenly I'm pushing 50. What's going to happen at that point?
Well, what I see here is more money, more prestige, more interesting place to work, better for your resume. That's what I'm hearing. If anything were to happen down the road, it sounds like you've just vastly improved your res. And I'm an executive recruiter, so that would just be my 2 cents. I'm not hearing a lot of, look, no job is perfect. So if it's like, hey, I'm not going to get to use some of my skills, which, by the way, are still going to be on your resume.
Right. They're still your skills.
Yeah. I guess the question is, how much do these things change over the course of a few years such that what I would have on my resume might be considered, oh, you did that. Yeah, but that was a few years ago. Everything's so different now.
Oh, yeah, that's true too. Yeah. Margaret, what's your fear about moving now?
Really just am I setting myself up for potential difficulties later in life? It's possible that, people who work at this place seems like they really like it. It's possible that I could stay there a really long time. But I guess I just want to keep my options open.
Yeah, I get that. Well, one thing I'll say about ageism, because I'm older than you, Margaret, is that, an argument could be made that moving now is better for you than waiting to move 2 or 3 years from now and getting yourself established in a new company while you're in your 40s. If that is your fear, that it will be harder to move when you're in your 50s, then there's an argument for moving now. Not to say that I'm for ageism and think you need to manage your career that way because you have skills, you have experience, you're being recruited by a prestigious company. Clearly, you're in a good place. But that would just be another factor I would think about if I was doing, like, if you're ever going to move, maybe now would be a good time.
Good point.
Well, I hope that was helpful.
Definitely. Yes. Thank you so much. That was helpful.
And we want to know what happens, okay? So let us know what you do decide to do. Okay, good luck.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, Liz, it's time to unveil a new segment here on Safe for Work.
Exciting.
This one is called Zip Tips. You might know of ZipRecruiter as the smartest way to hire. And here on Zip Tips, we'll be discussing ZipRecruiter CEO Ian Siegel's hard-earned wisdom and how it can help both job seekers and employers looking to hire phenomenal candidates.
Okay, this is exciting. Let's get into it. What's our first zip tip?
Well, you're the boss around here, so I'm not sure if you've experienced this, but one major stumbling block for employers is FOMO. And if you don't know what that means, that's fear of missing out. According to Ian, employers feel like they're going to find that perfect candidate if they just wait a little longer. And that just keeps the job listing open for way longer than necessary. Liz, do you think that's true as an employer? Have you ever experienced FOMO when searching for this perfect candidate?
Oh, for sure, Matt, because it is really hard to know when you've seen all of the most qualified candidates. Like, have you really gotten the cream of the crop? So, no, you keep waiting. I have definitely made this mistake. You're the recruiter around here. How do you help hiring managers get over their FOMO?
I try to explain to them, if you're using something like ZipRecruiter, you need to trust that ZipRecruiter has delivered you the best candidates. Not just one perfect candidate, a bunch of great candidates. And out of those great candidates, one of them will become the perfect candidate. And it may not be that the day they walk in the door, they're the perfect candidate. It may be that you have to train them a little bit, but they have all the credentials that they need to become your perfect candidate. What you need to do as an employer is go, okay, I've seen the best of the best. I trust that ZipRecruiter has presented them to me. It's my job to pull the trigger.
Pull the trigger. Okay, next zip tip.
So this is something that Ian calls the cronut. When people start a business, they really want to do everything and they want to do it well. But business owners quickly learn that there isn't enough time for that. You've got to prioritize and nail one thing. So if you're the baker and you invented the cronut, don't sell yourself as a baker. Embrace the cronut.
Got it. Okay.
So Liz, I'm curious, what is our cronut for Safe for Work?
Oh, what makes us really unique? Okay, well, we are the workplace advice show that's really focused on making you happier and more satisfied in the work you do. You know, we're going to help give you advice to get you there, and particularly to develop the people skills and emotional intelligence to do that. That's our cronut, Matt. That's what we do here at Safe for Work.
I would have said we have the best host. That too, right?
And I would agree with that.
Yeah. All right, that'll do it for this segment of Zip Tips. Remember, right now, Safe for Work listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. If you want to find out more, go to ZipRecruiter.com/safe. Again, ZipRecruiter.com/safe. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. So I just started using Dollar Shave Club. It's been a game changer. I personally never really learned how to shave. I know that's embarrassing, but I was a late bloomer, so I missed that whole high school era where my dad was around to show me.
How is that possible?
I didn't start shaving till college, so I missed the boat on learning how to do it. And I've just felt like I've always had these problems. I don't have a morning routine.
No skills.
No skills. And then I started using Dollar Shave Club, and it's changed everything for me because it's not just a razor. I have this shave butter. I've got this body cleanser. I've got these one wipe Charlies. It's a whole program for me. I just used it this morning and I've just been rubbing my soft face all day long. I love it. The Dr. Carver's shave butter is great because it feels good, but it also goes on clear. So for once, I can actually see where I'm shaving as opposed to before where I was just shaving blindly. It's like a machete in the jungle.
That does sound dangerous.
No, yeah. So I love the way that I can actually see how I'm shaving. And I would say that it's worked out really well today. I feel really good. So clean up your bathroom and your morning routine. Join Dollar Shave Club today for just $5. With free shipping, you'll get the 6-blade executive razor, plus trial sizes of the shave butter that I already told you is awesome, body cleanser, and One Wipe Charlie's. Those are also amazing. Then keep the blades coming for a few bucks more a month. Get yours at dollarshaveclub.com/safe. That's dollarshaveclub.com/safe. Welcome back to the show. If you have a burning workplace question and you need some advice, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at safe@wondery.com or leave us a voicemail at 424-224-5711. Again, our email is safe@wondery.com, and you can send us a voicemail at 424-224-5711.
It's time for our interview with Lee Weinstein. Lee's a former PR leader at Nike, my former employer as well, who created a workbook for intentional life planning called Write, Open, Act. Lee's point is, to get what you really want out of work, you have to really think about what you want out of life. Lee, thanks for joining us on Safe for Work.
Thank you for having me on.
Okay, Lee, in the interest of full disclosure, I have to admit that you and I worked together a million years ago, right?
A million, exactly.
But then I have been following your career, and I particularly noticed, this was a while ago now, a fascinating story in the New York Times that was entitled "The Restless Soul in the Bathroom Mirror." And it was a really thoughtful piece about looking in the bathroom mirror and asking yourself, do I really want to keep doing this for the rest of my life? And I was like, wow, this is really smart. This is a very interesting way to approach planning the rest of your life. And then I saw it was your byline on it, Lee. So that's why I'm here.
I've never heard that story. That's great.
Okay, so what I have in front of me is something called an Intentional Life Planning Workbook. And it's by you. And the cover also says, Write, Open, Act. So every single part of this is terrifying to me, Lee. Every single part of it.
You're not alone, Liz.
So, okay, I want to hear your story on why and how you decided you needed an intentional life plan. And then you have to explain what that really is. So what happened to you?
Sure. Well, what happened to me is I ended up marrying Melinda Weinstein, who turned out to be just the most phenomenal wife in the whole world. And soon after we got married, we were getting up one Saturday morning at our home in Beaverton, and I came downstairs and I said, "Well, now we're married. What do we want to do?" And I brought with me a big sheet of butcher paper. I said, "Let's talk about it." And so we laid it out on our kitchen counter, and we just sort of started talking about what do we want to do with our life ahead. And what we ended up doing, this was in the year 2000. We wrote 2000 at the far left end of the butcher paper, and then I turned to her and said, "Well, how long do you think you're going to live?" And she said, "Well, I'll probably live till I'm about 88. And I said, "Well, I'm a guy. I'm going to die before you do. Men seem to die younger than women. And so I'm going to live to probably be 78 or 83. So we put our death dates at the far end of the
Really?
sheet.
See, already I'm out. I don't want to think about that. Why are you forcing me to think about that, Lee?
So we ended up writing all that down. And then what we started talking about is like, well, what are some key milestones? So we had 2000 at one end and whatever the end date was for Melinda at the other end. And we started looking at, okay, and this is what's really fantastic about this is you look at this huge sheet of paper and you put all the years down, divide it by decades, and you could see, we had, 4 or 5 decades ahead of us left. And then we started putting in dates, like when was Emma going to graduate from high school and Sophie from college, and when did child support end, and other things like that. When were our moms going to be in their 80s or 90s, because we'd want to be near with them. And it gave us a big visual timeline of our life ahead. And then we were able to start actually doing some planning, which we've been doing every year since.
Okay, what's terrifying to me about this is the idea of putting down all those milestones and projecting my life that far out. I don't even do a daily to-do list, Lee. So there you go. There's my confession. But what I love about this is that it's not a career plan, which I think is what a lot of people, the approach they take to like satisfaction in their life is they're very, very focused on their actual work. And then they forget about mixing that with everything else. And what it does, we see this all the time on our show, is I think it almost makes people put too much pressure on their job and their work to provide 100% of their life satisfaction. I mean, sometimes I feel like saying to people, well, just leave the office and go. You're going to need to find that somewhere outside of your actual job. A job can only do so much for you. You need the total picture. And that's what you and Melinda figured out. And now you've turned it into an actual workbook. So the rest of us have to do this.
Yes, you do. Well, I'm really glad you said that because I've had two CEOs buy the workbook and start using it, and they have both said and used the exact word you did, which is terrified.
Yeah,
they were both
really
terrified to do this, and it brought up all sorts of emotion. And one of them said, I'm great at writing plans for everything else, business plans, product launches, everything else, but I'm terrible for my own life. And the idea of looking at their personal lives and choices that they've made is intimidating. So I think it's a natural response, and I think it's good to acknowledge, and it's fine. These questions are hard, and for a lot of us, we haven't taken time to look back and say, what are our life dreams? What do I want to do here? And what's my life been about?
So what's the benefit of actually writing it down? Because I think it's not like I don't do my fair share of ruminating, Lee. I ruminate about these things all the time. So what makes it different for me to go through a step-by-step process and write things down?
Really, the whole act of writing just sort of activates things. This is going to sound a little airy-fairy, but I think it activates the universe. So with our 12-foot long sheet of butcher paper that we originally had, we hung it in our home, and we walk by our life plan every day, and we can see what we want to do this year and what we're looking to do next year, or what's coming up in 10 years as we approach retirement. So, it really activates things. And then it's fun too. I mean, our daughter was recently visiting with her fiance, and he came back after going to the guest room, and he said, "Are you really going to climb Mount Hood, Lee?" And it's just kind of fun getting the family involved, getting other people to challenge you on some things you're thinking about. But I love that it's visual. We are visual creatures, and I think we need to look at these things. And then we have a whole sort of planning methodology where we've got 10 things to do this year, literally, Melinda and I. How do we divide those up by quarter? Because we're not going to get all 10 things done in Q1 of 2018. It's going to, these are things that we're going to get done over time.
As you're talking, I do in my mind keep comparing it to the million business plans I've written over the course of my career. And the number one flaw in probably 99% of all business plans is after you write it, you put it away, right? It's like buried in your computer, or it's in a binder on a shelf. It's never staring at you every day,
right.
Or it's very rare that the goals you set out are staring at you every day. So that really caught my attention about your process too. Just the constant reminder, again, intimidation factor, like, oh my God, I said I was going to do that. But I'm sure that it does just force people it keeps it top of mind, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and you'll love this. We have people who have their intentional life plans in their bedrooms. We have one of my friends who's a single woman has it in her bedroom. She said that makes for interesting conversations if I've had somebody over.
Okay, that seems awful. Oh my God, that seems awful to me.
We have other friends that have it, in their stairwell down to their washer and dryer. People who have them, in their hallways. Several people, though, have them in their bedrooms because they want to wake up, and the first thing that they want to look at is their life plan and what are they trying to get done. And we have a lot of things that we do every day. We've got work things to get done, school things to get done with kids and other things, errands we need to run. But it's like, when you're at the end of this year, did you get some of the big things that you really wanted to do done in your life? And if you've got certain dreams that you've always had, we want to make sure we get those things done. We don't want to be, lying on our deathbed going, God, I wish I would have done X.
Yeah, right. Do you think laying it out in an intentional life plan like this, does it actually give you more control over it? Because I think a lot of people feel, particularly when it comes to their work life, that your job, career can change with no intention on your part at all. So how does it affect that?
Yeah, no, I think it's a very good question, and I think it does allow you the control. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we have a finite amount of years that we get to live here. So the question is, what do you want to do with that time? And are you living the life you intended?
Mm-hmm.
And, is your work providing you satisfaction? If it's not, get the hell out of there. I think that's a little cavalier, and for some people it's very hard to do. But it's like, let's shift it and let's do something else and let's recreate. And I think there are, for those of us who've been doing our careers for a long time, and our kids have graduated from college or on to other things, I think we reach a point where it's like, okay, well, now what? And I think it's really important that we take time to really think that through and get some advice and make sure we do that well.
How about at the front end of a career? You're in your 20s, you're in your 30s. Yeah. Is this too much to ask people to really be able to project out their whole life until death? Like if I'm 25 years old, I'm having a quarter life crisis. Is this going to help me?
It absolutely will. And I think, and I want younger people to get into this more and more and more. I'd love to see students in college using this process, maybe even high school, because I think it allows them to look at their life and what's ahead, and to think about it. We did a little beta test with this on a couple of 20-year-olds who are fresh out of college, and they took that butcher's paper out and they wrote their current year, and then they wrote down to when they were 80 or 90. And I'll never forget Hannah turning to me and going, "Oh my God, is that as long as I get to live? That's all?" And,
wow.
And it was kind of like, oh, wow. But I think when you visually look at this, and it's back to what you said earlier, Liz, I mean, we do product launches, we do, business launches, we do all these things.
It's a written plan for everything.
Starts and ends. Mm-hmm. Why not do it with life? And so I think it's really important.
Because I don't want to know when it's going to end, Lee. That's why.
We don't know when that piano is going to fall on your head when you're walking down Broadway.
It's funny. That's exactly the way I want to go, too. Funny you should use that example.
I'm with you. But it's, I think for younger people, I mean, it's important to look at, okay, I'm out of college now. I've got student loans. When do those get paid off? I'm going to spend the first, 5 years of my career in Minneapolis, but I know in the future I want to work in international business, and I potentially want to be in Italy. I think it's important that we look at those things. We talk to ourselves, to our friends and partners about those things. And, part of it is just a very creative process, looking at life. What do we want? And really make sure, this is the other part I think is really important. I think it's really important that we look inside our souls. And, when I did decide to leave my job, I mean, I really wanted to really listen to my soul and heart. What did I want to do next? I mean, I think when we're in jobs now, people are always telling us, well, you should go do that, or you should go do that. And, they're giving you all this advice, but it's like, no, you should look inside your soul and ask your soul, what do you really want to do? And take all that other advice and use that as kind of flavor, but you gotta access what you really want to do.
I 100% agree, but that doesn't mean I'm not terrified at the thought of taking myself through that process. Lee's book is an intentional life planning workbook. It's called Write, Open, Act. We'll have all of the info in the show notes. Good luck with the rest of that beautiful life of yours, Lee. It was great to have this conversation.
Thank you very much, and good luck facing that terror.
You've inspired me.
Okay, I want to hear about it. Unless
the piano drops tomorrow, I may actually start this. Thanks a lot.
Fantastic. That's great. Thanks, Liz.
Hey, Matt, if you're anything like me, I'm guessing you've been totally intimidated in the past at starting your own website. I know for me, I thought I was going to have to spend thousands of dollars to get someone to create it and then constantly pay people to maintain it, because as you go along, you want to add content, you want to change things. And I just thought, I can't afford it and I don't know how to do it myself. But then I looked at Squarespace and I saw you really can do it yourself.
I've been there, done that with the bad website design, overspending for it. And now that I found Squarespace, I'm done.
Never again.
Never again. And I wake up sometimes in the middle of the night and I want to change my site, or I'm worried that it's down. But with Squarespace, they have 24/7 award-winning customer support. So there's never a time where I'm alone scrambling, because everybody knows when you have a business online, people are buying at all hours or wanting to check your site at all hours. So I love that they're there for you all the time.
I really appreciated the fact that they have these great templates. You know, they hire the world-class designers to create the templates, which is useful for me because I am not a world-class designer. And why should I have to start from scratch? You can build what you need, and then the 24/7 customer support. It really, really is great. It's all you need.
Keep dreaming, but make it a reality with the website from Squarespace. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And if you'd like to support this show and you want to hear more shows like it, then please, when you're ready to purchase, use the offer code SAFE to save 10% on your first website or domain. That's squarespace.com, offer code SAFE.
Matt, one thing I've learned the hard way over many years is that hiring the right people is the most important thing you can do at any company, and it's also the hardest. You know, sometimes you post your position to job sites, and then you just wait and wait and wait for the right people to see them.
As somebody who works in this space, I couldn't agree more. The problem is a lot of companies do it haphazardly. But now there's ZipRecruiter to help you out. ZipRecruiter learns what you're looking for, identifies people with the right experience, and invites them to apply to your job. These invitations have revolutionized how you find your next hire.
In fact, 80% of employers who posted on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. That's unbelievable. And ZipRecruiter doesn't stop there. They even spotlight the strongest applications you receive, so you never miss a great match.
I love that. The right candidates are out there. ZipRecruiter is how you find them. Businesses of all sizes trust ZipRecruiter for their hiring needs.
Right now, Safe for Work listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/safe.
That's ZipRecruiter.com/safe. One more time, try it for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/safe. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. All right, Liz, let's answer one more call.
Hello, this is David.
Hey, David, it's Liz and Matt from Safe for Work. How you doing?
Hey, doing great.
Good. So we understand you have a question for us. How can we help you?
Yeah. So like many of your listeners, I work in a larger company. So think tens of thousands of employees, group them in, hundreds of employees, and we're squarely stuck in middle management. So yes. A peer of mine has an employee who seems to actively sabotage some of the peers that I'm, on the same team with. So as an example, 5 minutes before the big boss meeting, this particular junior employee will tee up a couple of us and say, hey, by the way, you're expected to present this content at 10 minutes in and this at 15 minutes in with no prep, no way to really understand what we're supposed to be doing. So we show up being ill prepared. So I'm just wondering, what sort of advice would you have to work a situation like that?
How to work with the saboteur. Okay, let me ask a couple of questions. Have you talked to the perpetrator in this case? Because I often tell people do not assume motive. Maybe you don't know why it's all coming in at the last minute. Are you convinced that this is a conscious decision on the part of the perp to sabotage? It
feels like it's a pattern. So we've talked. And the response is typically very defensive, and it's not always the same thing. That's the part. It reminds me of if you ever worked with an employee who's really good at working the system, it being somebody who's not an excellent employee, but somehow can't seem to get fired. It feels like that a little bit.
Office cockroaches.
That's right.
That's what you call them. Okay, so it's not a case where this person is also overwhelmed in their job and they have goodwill, but they're just not getting it done right. It's you remain suspicious of their motives.
Usually when it's something like that, the person will apologize and say, I made a mistake, and those words just are not happening.
Okay. And how about this person's boss? Because you said it's the boss who's at your level. So when you talk to the boss, what's that conversation?
It's very much a supporting the employee type conversation, backing my team, and also a little bit defensive.
It's not, oh, yeah, you're right, he's a cockroach.
Exactly, yeah. And then the other challenge that we think about is this isn't something that we can really take to the big boss, because if you take something like this to the big boss, it's like, two kids fighting over a toy and mom gets involved and then nobody's happy.
Right. It's too petty. So, Matt, I can tell from the look on your face that you're really feeling something here. What are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling a couple things. One is, I've worked at companies where people are really territorial and they're information hoarders. And, I've been guilty of it on occasion, but I think mostly out of laziness or procrastination for non-malintentions. So, I'm always a little alert when people are like, this person's definitely doing it. But it sounds to me like they are, what you're talking about, gaming the system. And I think it's a problem that I have a lot of friends recently that have almost similar to what you're talking about, where they have this information hoarding and the other person's boss is territorial. And I had a friend come to me and say, I don't know if I should share this with the big boss. And I know there is that hesitation to not have the kids fighting, but I don't know what the other option is. If you don't bring this to the big boss, how else? I mean, Liz, I guess I'm asking you, if you were the big boss, do you want them to just settle it for themselves? Because it sounds like they can't.
Well, if I'm the big boss, then I need to understand the extent to which the culture change is being adopted, right?
Yeah.
So it's not so much coming and whining about two kids, but you make it sound like there is an effort on the part of the company to change the way people are dealing with each other. So if it can be part of that conversation, what can we do better to have people share information more, to have people feel more responsible to each other? I think, maybe just because I'm kind of old school, I think one of the real downsides to a culture of a lot of remote workers is that it is harder to create that sense of camaraderie and that sense of responsibility to the whole team. So people they're responsible in their silo to the one or two people that they know, but it takes a long time to change a company culture, especially when people are never in the same room.
In the world that I'm in
together.
of headhunting too, it's a lot of remote, and I do feel that. I feel like, oh man, these people, there isn't that built up personal trust sometimes, and so you do get a lot more of that hoarding and territorial stuff. But I like the idea of not coming in and saying, hey, he stole my toy, but hey, I know we're trying to implement this new culture of information sharing. I just want to alert you to the fact that these are some of the steps that we're trying to take here.
And I know one of your suggestions, Matt, when we were talking about this was just about like clear deadlines and things, right? Maybe it's that.
Yeah, because in my company, this happened a lot where there was just a lot of information hoarding and nobody knows what people's motives are, but it doesn't matter. What matters is, hey, you're not getting to do your job efficiently. So they just implemented a software system. They said everybody has to implement, whatever we need for the meeting has to go in the day before, all the information. So it's just in there. So nobody can go, well, this person's being petty or that person's being petty. If you don't get it in there, you failed.
Yeah. And my feeling about that, David, is that works up to a point, but technology does not fix human nature.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
If this guy is just like a bad actor in the system, I'm not sure there's one simple solution. You're just waiting for the culture change to kick in. Some people are never going to adopt the culture change. And hopefully the system over time weeds those people out.
Yeah, I think that, as we make our change here, that the folks who are from, say, if you want to call it old guard, they will spend a disproportionate amount of time fighting to maintain the status quo, maybe because they're waiting for retirement, right? So I do feel like there is a palpable shift. We've had a couple very powerful changes in how we're approaching the market, and it's got people excited. So, there is some of the wildfire spreading of the new culture that's happening. And then, we just sort of unfortunately have to wait for the review periods to come up to get documentation on file and, start to move people out.
Damn it. I wish we had a simpler answer of how you can just take this person out of the system.
It's like you tried to go and get that person who's their boss as your ally, and that didn't work. So it's like you are where you are in this situation.
Yeah, I can only endorse direct communication with the person, with the perpetrator, the saboteur, and with the perpetrator's boss, so that over time the behavior changes. I wish we had something faster for you. But not everybody gets.
The winds of change will sweep this
program.
person up. That's
the arc of history here. You're in the curve.
Bending towards justice.
Good luck. I hope that was helpful at all, David.
Yeah, it was actually very helpful. Thanks. Love your show.
Okay, thanks
Thank
a lot.
you.
Bye-bye.
In case you missed anything from this episode, just tap the cover art to check out the notes for today's show. You'll also find our email address, safe@wondery.com. And if you want to support the show, you'll find some great offers from our sponsors as well.
Another way you can support the show is by filling out a small survey at Wondery.com/survey. It helps us make the show better for listeners like you. And who doesn't want that?
This episode was hosted by me, Matt Ritter, comedian, recovering lawyer, and executive recruiter, and Liz Dolan, boss emeritus and satellite sister. Our original theme song is composed by Martin Blanco. Audio engineering by Misha Stanton, produced by Cameron Kell. Executive produced by Eileen King and Marshall Louie. Created and executive produced by Hernan Lopez for Wondery. Remember, workplaces can feel crazy.
But you don't have to. So here's an interesting question, Matt. Can you learn to trust and rely on a coworker you can't stand?
Is there something you're trying to tell me, Liz?
No, really. But seriously, check this out. On Ted's new podcast, Work Life with Adam Grant, there's an episode where they go inside a place where you just have to get along. The International Space Station.
Yeah, it's a fascinating episode. You get to hear interviews with astronauts and discover the secret ingredient to building strong relationships at work.
I really love this show. Each week, Adam Grant, who's an organizational psychologist, he visits unusual workplaces like college basketball teams and the Daily Show writer's room. I'm sure you enjoyed that one, Matt, to reveal the hidden keys to happier, more productive work.
So you can subscribe to Work Life, that's one word without a space, Work Life, wherever you find your podcasts.